Dear viewers, wherever you are, this is Peter Deng from Africa World Book Community Education, and our guest tonight is Daniel from is a financial coach who have been in the financial industry for uh, more than 15, 17 years, and he is a friend of Africa World Book who has been ready all the time to share his experience with the community. Many of you know that we have financial difficulties and how to manage finances. So Daniel is going to present the key points and how to master the basics financial rules. Daniel, welcome and briefly introduce yourself before you start the presentation. Thank you.
Yes, hi everyone. Look, my name's Daniel Varone. As Peter said, I've been in the industry for 15, 20 years. I'm very passionate about helping people with regards to their, mastering the basics, as we're going to be talking about. I just want to first of all thank Peter Deng for arranging and inviting me to do this presentation, but also secondly for what he's actually doing in the community. So he's encouraging and empowering people to read, which is very important. They say person from now as you are today, apart from two things, the books you read and the people you meet. So what is it? The books you read and the people you meet. So if you change those two things, you will change your life. So I encourage, to books about the history of South Sudan and the present status and also the future by reading those books from the elders. And I'm glad to have Peter Deng in my life because he inspires me to grow and stretch as well. So I'm just going to bring up the presentation. And basically, it called this a philosophy. So it's a philosophical and practical discussion about. So I'm just going to bring that up in a second, and about this. So we're just dealing with the technology here. So the philosophical and practical about the basics of money. The philosophy we're going to discuss is not my own idea. It's actually about 3,000 years old. So how many years? 3,000 years old. It stood the test of time. So people have applied this philosophy ages to for themselves. Philosophical stuff first, and then we'll get into the practical side of things. So it's from the book of Proverbs. Now, it doesn't matter if you're a believer or not. The principles still work. Now, across this paragraph, I really want to share it with you. It's about money. And or not, I found it in a book. So I was actually reading this book, and this is basically this is what we're talking about. So too many people buy things they don't need with money they don't have to impress people they don't like. So I don't know who said that first, but it's so good. The use of your money reveals your values that come from your character. If you want to see where your heart is, open your checkbook. You might try to convince your spouse of your love, but your checkbook will tell the truth. Money represents your life. You give your time, talent, education, and experience in return for money. The money you receive represents your life work. You give your life and you get money. That means how you spend your money shows what you do with your life. Every dollar you spend, you're spending some that you've put into work. If you want your life to count, make your money count. Master the principles that master money. Amazing, hey? So I just read that this morning, and this is what we're talking about today. So, and that book's called Treasure. I can put it in the chats afterwards if anyone's interested in getting that book. So, look here. Let me know if there's income, what comes in, expenses, what goes out, debts, what you owe, expenses such as interest, what uses for everything else, a byproduct or core things. So I'm going to talk about these 4 things in the philosophical side of point of view. And if you can master all of these 4 things, then you'll become a master of managing your money. You're financially free, stress of money, of day-to-day bills, of trying to find, money to pay the bills. So we're going to talk about that now from the Proverbs. So the first thing I want to talk about is income. What comes in? Now, the most important thing about income is to increase your ability to earn an income. Let's try to hide this. Yeah. Increase your ability to earn income. What that means is you could lose money but never skills or understanding. So what that means is, here's a proverb about that. So happy is the man who finds wisdom, skill, the man who gets skill. The profit is better and her return is better than rubies. None of the things you can desire are to be compared with her. So what does it say is better than silver, gold, and rubies? It's wisdom. You need to get wisdom. Even their career, you can give them the sack, but they'll just take the skills and they'll start over stronger. So that's increasing the ability to earn an income. The next thing is work ethic. Work ethic. Here's another proverb. Go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider ways and be wise. Have no chief or ruler. They provide their bread in the summer and gather their food in the harvest. How long will you sleep, sluggard? When it will rise out of a little sleep, a little slumber of the sleep. So poverty will come as a robber and your scarcity as an armed man. Now, I love Proverbs because they just paint a picture. So what animal is he talking about here? He's talking about the ant. And how do we end up in poverty or scarcity? By sleeping too much, resting too much, relaxing too much, being lazy. He calls us sluggard. That's a bit of a harsh word. I'm not saying that. The proverb here is saying sluggard. It just means who doesn't want to work. That can, but our attitude, hard worker, then we can overcome a lot of things. Here's another one. Poor is he who works with a negligent hand, but the hand of the diligent makes rich. So what makes you poor? Working diligently. So we can see the difference. So coming back to the ants. Ants keep showing up every day and work together to get the job done. If we just show up to work or our business every day and have a pleasing personality to work with others and work all day, we will also eventually succeed. You don't have to be the most talented person in the group. It trumps talent to a great degree. It's okay to rest. Too much rest leads to poverty. So, and the last one about work ethic is the after the autumn. So harvest and have. So if we don't work while we can, while we have opportunities to work, or while we're young, we'll be begging during. So we need to make the most of opportunities that come to us now, because they don't always last. So this includes like working hard while we can in our, and saving up so that we're at least comfortable during our retirement, if we choose to retire, or if you. So that's first of all, we talked about getting wisdom and then work ethic, working hard. The next one they talk about is working versus talking. So have you noticed how many experts there are on the web? There's a lot of talking going on. But this next proverb says, in all labor is profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. But money comes from the ears. Someone ultimately has to hand over money for an actual real good or service in order to get paid. All right. And speaking of offering our services, there's another proverb that says, he who withholds grain, blessing will be on the head of him who sells it. So where's the blessing? It's upon the people who have goods and services and they offer it to the community. They sell their goods and services. It could be via a business, or as an employee, you're selling your services to your boss through. So everyone, I don't believe it, I know everyone on earth has a gift or a talent. So you use your gift to bless others, and you will be blessed in the process. So part of this is really for you to find out, what are my gifts? What am I on this for? A clue is something that you can really do easily, you enjoy doing, but you don't even think it's hard work. Like some people can just sing, they love to sing, they can sing, not just in the shower, they can sing in front of people, etc. And they don't even think about it. It's not even hard for them. And people enjoy their singing. But some of us, a lot of us, if we sing, it's like people tell us, please stop. So we know what your gift is by what you can do easily and what you enjoy to do. And so if you can offer that gift to the community, to society, you'll be rewarded for that, and they'll be blessed by it. So everyone is. Now, when we talk about income, we also need to think about we've all heard stories about fraudulent people. Here's another proverb for you. Well, reward dwindles. Who gathers by labor increases. So can you hear me okay? I just should check. Can I have a thumbs up if you can hear me okay?
It keep breaking, so you can move closer to the mic. Yeah, thank you.
Wealth obtained by fraud gathers by labor increases it. So there was a young man not in Victoria, but he was in Australia, but he wasn't from Australia. He was from another country. He came to Australia. He was a young guy, and he became very wealthy very suddenly, seemingly overnight. And he gave a lot of money to his church. He drove a Bentley, and everyone thought he was just so. But what happened? A few months later, it turned out that he was involved in some sort of drugs, or he was a scammer or something like that. And he ended up in prison. So, thought guy's successful. It's great. He's even giving money to church. The way he was getting his money was through fraud and deceiving people. So here's another one. He who profits illicitly troubles his own house. So that young man, his whole family was in shame. His mum, his dad, sister, aunt, they were all aimed of a bad reputation onto his whole family by doing the wrong thing. So the is more important than how much we. Does anyone know? Has anyone experienced anyone who's obtained income deceitfully? They've done the wrong thing. It will eventually catch up with them. So that's much income. Now, just the main thing, expenses. We were talking about the and I know there's an issue for people who come from overseas, especially from most countries in Africa over to Australia, is that you've got family back home and you find you need to give a lot of your income to support people back home. Is that right, Peter?
Yes, that's what is happening here. Hello, Daniels. Daniels.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, so I said yes. That's what is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, continue, Daniels. Continue.
Yeah. So look, I've written down here, make giving of the plan part of your budget. Yeah. So I've written down here, make giving part of the plan. What that means is, some people don't give any money to anybody, but some people, especially if you're from overseas, you give a lot of your income overseas. And I understand that. It's a good thing. However, I guess there needs to be a balance as well, because if you give everything or too much, you'll never be able to. So you need to have a left over advance. So it's more blessed to give than to receive. That's the one main proverb that we need to think about. So in other groups of people, this would be like, I would really hammer home the point of giving and make sure you give out of your income, because you're getting blessed. You should give to poorer people. However, I know in your community, that's not even an issue, because pretty much everyone I've spoken to over here in Australia to send money back home. So I encourage you to continue to, of course, you've got to manage the rest of your income as well. Something else about expenses, though, is your image and showing off your wealth versus actually having wealth. So one is to be rich but has nothing. Another pretends to be poor, but they have great wealth. So would you rather look rich or actually be rich? So that I've had many clients who are wealthy, but they don't look rich. Wear basic clothes. You would walk past them on the street, you were $1 million or $5 million. They ordinary clothes. Maybe Centrelink, they dress up well and they have the chains and the expensive car, but rich actually. So this proverb here is about that. So we need to think about, do we want to look rich or do we want to actually be rich? Sounds a bit tough, doesn't it? But
Yeah.
I'm here to help you. All right. So the next one is about pleasure, loving pleasure. Now, the proverb says, "He who loves pleasure will become a poor man. He who loves wine and oil will not become rich." So, in reality, the world has unlimited opportunities for pleasure. There's unlimited places you can go to eat out, for holidays. Media, social media, TV is just telling you buy this, buy that, buy this. You can easily spend all your money on things that make you happy, pleasurable. However, it's okay to enjoy life. However, if we live just for pleasure, we're not going to become rich. It's a trade-off. It's a choice. So I come from a fishing village, and some of the fishermen, they made a lot of money in fishing season. Like young guys, 21 years old, they'd go out for 2 weeks or something on the boat, and they'd come back and the captain would give them all, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars, which back then was a lot of money just for a couple of weeks' work, maybe even thousands of dollars, a couple of weeks. And they'd go straight to the pub, spend their money. They had a fistful of money, so they just go and spend money, etc. So they had a lot of money in their hand, but because they were only thinking about the weekend, they just went and spent it all and enjoyed their life. And then 2 weeks later, when the boat was going to go out again, they had no money, so they had to go and work. So it was a cycle. They could only see a week or two in advance. Do you know anybody like that? We'll probably all know someone like that. But then there are other fishermen who they would go out and they'd make a lot of money. But instead of going living just for pleasure, they would put some aside. They'd actually reinvest into their boat. They would maybe buy their own boat. Then they'd be the captain of their own boat. And today they're so two had exactly the same opportunity. One invested for the future, and now they're so these are facts of life. They're not going to change. They haven't changed for 3,000 years, and if we're still here for another, so we need to just get used to that. And we're going to talk about how to expenses. Now, third box here is debts. So a debt is something you owe money to someone or to a company. And what a debt does as well, it produces expenses like interest. You've got to pay interest and you've got the repayments. So what happens is the proverb here is the rich rules over the poor and the borrower becomes the slave. You literally become a slave. So you might say, oh, that's a bit harsh. It's a bit not realistic. You're not really. But if you've got a mortgage and you don't pay the bank for 1 month, you'll get a letter from them. If you don't pay them for 2 months or 3 months, they'll probably send a sheriff around to your house to take the keys off you and kick you out of the house. It doesn't take long for the bank to start to really come down on you. And so what does that mean? That means you have to keep working in order to pay that debt off. So if we have debts, we have less choice. So the more debts that we have, the harder it is to change careers or business because we have obligations and commitments. We can't just put this debt obligation. So the idea is get out of debt as quickly as possible. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. And the last one is assets. We really want to get to this stage. We want to get to having assets that produce us income. Imagine instead of paying interest, you're earning interest. You're earning dividends, a share of the company's profit. And that every year or every month or every half year, regularly into your bank account forever. That's where we want to get to. And that's where we get to financial freedom. So the first asset really actually is our reputation, because the proverb here is a good name is to be desired more than great wealth. Favor is better than silver and gold. So if you've got a good name, a good reputation, it's going to help you to attract clients, gain favor. But a poor reputation will mean people will try to avoid working with you, no matter how good you seem to be at your work. So reputation is so important. And financial security, a fortress. The rich man's wealth is a fortress, but the ruin of the poor is their poverty. So I don't know if you've seen it, those old villages in England or something like that, or Spain or France or whatever. They've got this big fortress around the village, and that would stop another village across the valley to try to come and attack them. And that's exactly what wealth does. If you've got money in the bank, the purpose of wealth is that money can actually solve. Let's say you've got a car and it broke down and it's going to cost you $100 to fix it. It's not going to work unless you get it fixed. It's going to cost you $100. If you don't have that $100, that's a disaster, because you can't get to work, you can't get to school, you can't think. If you've got the $100, it's just an inconvenience. You get the mechanic to come, or you got to take the car to the mechanic, you hand over the $100 and finished. Now, if that repair job is going to cost $1,000, well, then the same thing. If you don't have $1,000, you can't go to work. It's costing you income. But if you've got the $1,000, you just hand $1,000 over. It's just an inconvenience. You've got to wait a couple of days to get them to fix the car. You've paid the money, and then you're on your way. So that's what financial security is all about. That's why it's like a fortress. The bigger the calamity has, that's going to cause your life. I know a few people that had relatives who came and visited them from overseas, and these people ended up in hospital without health insurance. So no Medicare, so they ended up in hospital. The hospital bill was in tens of thousands of dollars, and some cases over $100,000. So of course, this caused them a huge amount of stress, because not only was their loved one sick, but they had this massive bill that they had to pay to the hospital. If they, or themselves, the issue would not be a disaster. It would simply, that's of having. Imagine just writing on a piece of paper and handing over that piece of paper, and you don't have that check, then they've got this debt for many years. So that's why the wealth is a fortress. That's where we want to get to. That's what I want to help people to get to. That you'll have that fortress, that emergency, that that if an emergency happens to you. And ultimately, we want to get to, and I'm going to show you this on the next slide. I want to get to leaving an inheritance. A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. So it's passed on generation. And Peter Deng's got all of the books in his. It's full of wisdom from the previous generations. Up a book from Peter Deng, you're actually getting a life's work in a few pages, like 100 or 200 pages. I've got, I believe it's one of your relations, Peter Deng. It's the struggle for liberty, South Sudan. It's a book that I got from you about 10 years ago. And that, if you read that book, it just gives you like it gives you so much information about what happened, where South Sudan is now, where it was in the past, how it got to that stage. And this is an interesting thing. What made me feel a bit sick in the stomach was that, I don't want to talk politics, but I'm just sort of saying like other people had control over the destiny of that country. England and Egypt, sort of decisions about Sudan and North Sudan and South Sudan affected the people of Sudan. Outside force had an impact on the country. Am I sort of right about that, Peter?
Yes, you're right, Daniel. So I just mute myself. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. So in that sense, I don't want to get political, but I'm just saying if we bring that into our own life, if we don't have control over control over our own destiny, then other people are going to make decisions for us. For example, the company that you work for, it might go bankrupt and they have to close down. You lose your job. Now, it wasn't your fault. And outside your control affected you. So what I want to help everyone to get to is that you can just walk away from that job and walk into another one, or you can take 3 months or 6 months or 12 months. You don't have to worry because you've got money sitting there. Remember that the fortress of money that's going to cover your bills for 3 or 6 months or longer, so that these things don't affect you. Because it's very stressful if you lose your job and then you've got your mortgage payment and you've got no money to pay it. That causes a huge amount of stress. But if you've got the money sitting there, you can make decisions about your own life. For example, your company might, you know what, Peter, we're going to make some changes to our company here. Now you have to work every weekend. You've got kids, etc. You've got and basketball and all that. We're changing the rules. Now you have to work every weekend. Now, if you're not in a financial position, then you're going to say, oh, okay, yes, boss, I have to do it. I have to sacrifice my own family. But if you're in a good position financially, you can actually tell the boss to go and jump off, I don't know, jump into a lake. Where's the nearest lake in Perth? Lake in Perth, that you have to jump in that lake and you're going to go somewhere else. The government, for example, they might take an experimental medical procedure, for example, and you might say, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something else, because I've got the finance. But if you don't have the finance, you're going to have to say, okay, I'm going to have to take this medical procedure because I don't have a choice. I've got bills to pay next week. Things like that. That's why we have to be, where it says master the basics of money, it's really becoming a master of your own life and your own life. Okay. So now I'm going to quickly breeze through because we've been about 40 minutes or so. I'm going to go to the next screen, and now, can you still see this, Peter? Can you see the next screen there? So what we've got here is practically, and this is your income, and this is your expenses. What we need to make sure is that income higher than expenses. And that's what I work with people with financial coaching, to make sure that their income is greater than their expenses. Because what you need is between your income and your expenses. So there's the gap, okay? You always have to have that gap, because that's your buffer between being a slave these things here. So create a gap between your income expenses. So how do you do that? Working diligently, working hard, having a good work ethic, being honest, etc., will increase your income. And applying wisdom, judgment, and prudence will reduce your expenses. Because now we know, hey, there are those who look rich, but they're poor. There are those who look poor, but they're rich. I'd rather look poor and be rich, so I'm going to cut back on my expenses. I might even sell this very, 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 very beautiful, cool car, pay off my debts, get a sick car that's going to free up more so that I can invest, and then later had before when I was broke. Wisdom, that's judgment. It's understanding where you're at and making a good decision with the money that you've got. We've got some preschool nieces and nephews, and they say, at preschool, they say you need to make a green choice or a red choice. So a green choice is a good choice, a red choice is a bad choice. So making choices here. For those that have graduate, the thing that I want to talk about is what do you do with that gap? All right. And very briefly, I'm just going to run down this. I don't know if this is being recorded, you can watch it again. But I'm happy to talk with people who want to do that. I'll discuss that at the end. What do we do to build an abundance? We can build up 1,000 really quickly. Save it up on place. We just build it, because remember, that's the first part of the fortress that we were talking about before. Having that money sitting there for a very basic emergency. The fridge blows up, you can just put $100, buy a new fridge. So that's the first thing. The next one is pay off all of your debt if you have a house. But if you've got things like credit cards, personal loan, car loan, just pay them off. And there's a way to do that. Pay off small first, while still, once you've paid the one, move on to the next big, throw as much money as you possibly can to pay off all your debts. And this is the plan, okay? Once you have a plan, you start becoming creative about it. If you don't have a plan, you don't know where to start. But this is a very, very solid plan. It's the best plan that I've actually seen. As actually, Dave Ramsey is the person that came up with this idea. And literally, it could take you from dead broke to, we've got a lot of people who have gone and become the next step is your emergency fund. Remember I said, if your boss wants you have to be Saturday now where you can say thanks but no thanks. Other people say other things, but I'm saying thanks but no thanks. I'd rather do something else. And then if you've got 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in your bank account, then you don't have to worry about income for 3 to 6 months because all your bills are paid 6 months. So you get to all the business that you really want to do and make a go of it instead of just jumping the next thing that the first job that becomes available to you. Okay. And once you've actually built up that 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, the next stage is just keep on saving, save up for a deposit for a house. Now, I know over in Western Australia, houses are very expensive. Melbourne's the same. But the idea is, as soon as you possibly can, it's a good idea to have a roof over your head. The reason for that is because it's an investment. A house is an investment, even though some people say that it's not. But ultimately, when you've got a house, a roof over your head, then you're paying maybe a little bit more than you would pay rent for the same house. So that extra money that you're paying is going towards the principal of the loan and it's paying the mortgage off. So eventually you will own your house. I'll talk about that in a minute. For a home, because ultimately you want to have a house. When you do retire, you want to have a house that you've got. To retire at 65, they never made the decision to buy a house, spent all their money at the pub or whatever, and now they're renting at 65 on a pension. So half of their pension, which is very small anyway, is going towards rent. There's no way to live in your later life. The next thing is I know if you're working for a company that your boss puts in 10%, so you could top it up to 15%, or you could put that other 5% into like another investment property or shares or whatever, something like that. But at least it's investing. Keep staying away. The more money you stash aside, the more that fortress that you've got, and the more it's going to take to become a disaster. You save for your kids' university. And decide I want to, but that's a little bit. Really start saving for your kids' future so that you give them a good start. And the next one, pay off your house. Normally in Australia, the mortgage is 30 years. So if you're we've been lucky enough to do that, or blessed enough or whatever to be able to do that. So now we don't have to worry about our life. A bit weight off the shoulders. Then the is house off. It's money that here that we're talking about. It's going to be much bigger than when you started. So then you can really start building a lot of wealth. Start putting a lot more money into it. You can give abundantly. You can really. You've been giving the whole time. Remember, budget. But now we've got all this extra income, you can really give over and abundant. So you can send a lot more money back home for someone to come over. It's very 50 grand. And this it's different, I understand that, but you can do things with that extra money that you're giving, that you've got there. So that's a very quick practical side of how to get from I'm dead broke to get to now I'm wealthy and I'm really helping my community in a big way. So I'm just excited about what you guys can do, and this, because I think if a few people take a hold of it, can really, sometimes it's just a bit of knowledge, a bit of a path to take, and once you're on that path, you'll go for it, and you'll surpass. I believe you'll surpass a lot of people who are born here and have had all the opportunities. People from overseas that can't do better because they're more on the side of real true poverty, and it's like, no, I don't want that in my life. So yeah, I'll just look. As I said, I'm a financial coach, so if you want to have a coaching session with me, just give me a call on that number there. Happy to have a chat with you over the phone to see how we can work together, to see if you'd be a right fit for coaching. Is a good fit for financial. So we need to sort of I'm more than happy. If people have any questions, to ask some questions if you like, and I'll hand it back to Peter.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for very wonderful presentations. It is beneficial not only to those who are in Australia, but I think people will continue to view and also to watch and to do practice. Not only one person or the new emerging community have issues with finances, but I think everyone is experiencing the hardship of how to manage these things with the crisis that we are facing. So we're going to go for a break and then we come back if there are questions. Thank you. Hello, Daniel. Welcome back.
I'm back.
It seems there are no questions. People are very excited about the presentations and appreciative of what you have done. So, yeah, okay, that is one question from
Okay, I
title.
see a
It's one of
question.
the community leaders. Yeah, it's one of the community leader. Yeah. So
How under Centrelink? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's difficult because I don't want to say it's difficult. It depends what Centrelink income is. If it's for seeker, in Australia, job seeker is one of those payments. It's to give you enough money to kind of survive while you're looking for work. So I don't know if what the status is of the person that's on Centrelink. It really depends. But what I would say, if somebody's on Centrelink and they're struggling with debts or something like that, speak to a financial counselor. Financial counselor is somebody who works and you West. I'm assuming a lot of people are in Australia. If you're in Australia, Financial Counselling Australia is the peak body of financial counsellors. And so basically, if you're on Centrelink, they can help you with debts and things like that. But hopefully, if you're on job seeker, you're just in between work or you're looking for work, it's difficult. I'm not going to deny that it's very difficult on that small income, and it's the whole thing about that is because if you can work, then obviously we know that if you get a job, you're going to have an income coming in. So I'm paying whoever that question, not much money at all. I mean, I've been on Centrelink before. I've always been lucky enough to have work income, but I've had low-paying jobs, and it is difficult to live on. So you're almost trying to survive in that sense, if that makes sense. But yeah, Financial Counselling Association. I don't know if I can put a link in Financial Counselling Association. I can type that in and we'll be able to see it. I'll get Peter to send out. And I see where is an asset or a liability.
Yep.
In terms of what I'm talking about, it's not an asset because it doesn't go up in value and it doesn't give you an income. In fact, it goes down in value and there's a lot of expenses. So a car is a necessary evil. You have to have a car to get around, but it's your choice on how expensive that you want to spend on a car. Like I said, I wouldn't call it an asset. I'd just call it a possession down in value and it costs you money. So definition of liability, then that's a liability.
Okay. Just one question. What are the impacts of financial misappropriate, or if someone don't really observe and obey the financial rules of savings? Hello, Daniel.
The impacts if they don't obey the financial rules?
Yes.
It just means that you're going to be struggling the rest of your life. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes. Okay. Like most of us,
it means that
defendant, yeah. So most of the families, like we still have people living in the refugees camp for 29 years.
Struggling.
And those people need help from us. So every family, I have a responsibility of supporting people around East Africa.
Yeah.
In Egypt and some other places. So it is uneasy. You feel uneasy not to share whatever little you have. And what does the Bible say about it? The money.
Yes. Yep. And it's definitely it's definitely in a way, I don't want to say cultural thing, but it's kind of a cultural thing because people from Africa, people from Southern Europe, people from South America, people from Asia, they have more of a collective mindset where if I have this phone, it doesn't belong to me, it belongs to the whole community, which I think is a good thing because I think in Australia, if this phone is in my name, it's my phone. Not even my wife can use it. That's the. But the happy balance of setting aside some of the grain or some of the money that you've got to improve your situation, because your desire is to help other people anyway. So the more money that Peter Deng has, the more people Peter Deng is going to be able to help. So it's not like stop giving altogether until you're extremely rich. You still give a bit, but also, as they say, a man can't help a poor man. Everyone in Australia can sort of become more financially settled, then you can help a lot more people back home again.
Yeah, I think we deep you as well listening. So please, the topic which was presented is about financial management, how to manage the basics, keys of financial savings. You can just contact David Daniels. His contacts are in the videos, or contact me if you want also to be in touch with him. He's a very good man, very lovely, very humble. He does always help people. Since I met him, he has never changed his behavior. He's a great man, an asset to the society. It was nice having you, Daniel. And feel free all the time if you want to present any topics. South Sudanese community in South Sudanese chairperson in Western Australia is also greeting you. I think he's watching from somewhere, and maybe next time he will join the discussion, and we shall continue to have more of the same discussion about the community education programs. And also maybe the COVID issues are now reducing, so we might come to Melbourne, or also we may also invite you in the future to Western Australia to deliver public lectures, because it is our responsibility to continue to enlighten our society. Thank you very much, and have a good night.
Definitely.
Hello, Daniel. Yeah. Daniel, can you
Thank you,
hear
Peter.
me?
Thanks everyone
Yeah.
for the questions, and
Wonderful.
God bless you, and we'll talk again soon.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yep.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
We should all make more time for books, 'cause they nourish just like water, holding secrets and lessons in place to be handed to our sons and daughters. Oh, in between the pages, amazing stories handed down through the ages, designed to nurture and to change lives. Yes, to change lives. In between the pages, words of freedom that unlock all the cages, so everybody here can change networks that are just behind, they'd be lost without their supporters. Oh, in between the pages, amazing stories handed down through the ages, designed to nurture and to change lives. Yes, to change lives. Oh, yeah. One book at a time. Africa World Book. One book at a time. Showing Australia. One book at a time. It's African heritage. One book at a time. One book at a time. In between the pages, amazing stories handed down through the ages, designed to nurture and to change lives. Yes, to change lives. In between the pages, words of freedom that unlock all the cages, so everybody here can change lives. Yes, to change lives.
To those who have just joined, so please try to share the video and also listen to it and contact Daniel anytime if you need financial coach. Daniel is there ready to help. Thank you. We're going to end the show.